I'm Brianna.
And I'm Elise. We're sisters. And this is Chit-Chat and Cheers.
Welcome back, everybody. This is episode 4. Woohoo! 4. So exciting. So yeah, welcome back to Chit-Chat and Cheers. I'm Brianna, and that is Elise.
Hi-lo.
Hello.
That's how Sloan used to say hello. Hi-lo.
Hi-lo. I love just the things that kids come up with and say. It's just so funny. With Nora and Luke. Nora's 5, Luke's 3. It's getting more and more fun. Like, I love the baby stage, love the snuggles. I'm gonna miss the little baby cuddles, but oh my gosh, they are so much fun. Although today, my son was trying me today. He went to bed. He lost all of his privileges. Didn't get to play in the bathtub after bath. Didn't get to read any books tonight. He went straight to bed. Was not happy, but that little stinker just would not listen. I would be actively standing next to him telling him, don't do something, and he'd go, okay, as he was continuing to do what I was telling him not to do.
You're a mean mommy. Do you remember that when that was your insult when you were a kid? You're a mean mommy.
I used to tell our mom, you're a mean mommy. That was the most gut-wrenching total burn I could come up with as a child. But the cherry on the cake or whatever tonight was he's still not potty trained. He's still shitting in his pants left, right, and center. And I'm standing
no more
next
Cheerios.
To him. He's moved on from that. He doesn't give two hoo-haws. I'm standing next to him. I can smell that he's had an accident. And I look at him and I said, Luke, did you poop your pants? And he looks at me and goes, no. And so I know he's lying because I can smell it. And so I say, Luke, if you are lying to me, I'm going to be very upset. I'm going to look in your pants. And if you've got poop in there, you're going to be in big trouble. I'm going to give you another chance. Did you poop your pants? He looks at me and he goes, no. And then tries to scoot away from me so I can't check him. And so, of course, obviously he was. And so that was the last straw. He lost privileges and quick bath and into bed he went.
That's my godson, everybody.
He's so freaking stubborn.
Well, I can tell you, though, the cuddles don't go away. Blair was sick with strep throat today, and I'm in the medical field, and I was sure that's not what was going on, but I needed documentation for work and for her school. So I took her, and of course she has strep throat. No fever, all the other signs that don't say strep throat, but she has strep throat. And all she wanted, I came home from work after a half day, so John and I could split the day, and she just wanted to lay on me. And I was like, oh, you weigh 50 pounds now, but this is still the same thing.
The last time Nora was sick, she had a tummy bug. And I ended up just sleeping in her room on the floor next to her because she literally would moan a little bit, sit up, and then vomit. And so I don't know, I was really good at this, but I could hear her kind of rustle around. I could grab the bowl and lurch up and catch it so she would get sick, not sick in her bed. But ever since then, she's always like, Mommy, every time I'm sick, you get to sleep in my room. It's like a goal for her now.
So let me explain to you the way I do this. Love John, but we have a guest bedroom. And when kid is sick, I'm like, oh, they're really sick. They're sleeping in the bed. That's the only time they get to sleep in the bed. And so John will sleep in the guest bedroom. So I'm still comfortable in my bed, and I'll have the bowl with me. When they get sick, I'm like, okay. So if there's she's to change their mind, but still, I'm in my own bed, not on the floor.
I make it real comfortable. I make almost a little futon. I put a bunch of blankets down. I got a bunch of pillows. It's actually not too comfortable.
I don't do couches or floors, so to each their own. But poor John, he's like, you literally sleep nowhere but our bed. And I was like, no, that's my place. This is where I belong. And even when he's not in there, I sleep on my half of the bed. I don't even encroach on his. This is my space.
Oh, if Chris isn't home and he's staying overnight somewhere, I'll put pillows on his side to mock his body.
Yeah.
I don't know. It freaks me out to be in the bed by myself. So I make a little fake Chris pillow.
I have a 4-pillow system. So
a 4-pillow system.
Yeah.
Do tell.
Head pillow.
Right.
Yeah. I have, when I'm laying in bed, I have 2 on my right, 1 on my left, and the bottom one on my right can shift from side to side.
That is strategy. That is
yes. I'm just saying, when I go to a hotel, I have to ask for extra pillows, and they're usually not fluffy enough. But first world problems here, people.
Do you bring your own pillow when you go somewhere?
If I don't fly, I sure do. If I'm driving, it's going with me. All 4. John
that's true. Because when we had the girls' weekend, I brought a pillow down for you.
I was like, I need you to bring me a fluffy pillow, please. I need to know that I'm going to have adequate pillow support on this trip.
Well, Should we do a cheers?
Yes.
Just hit my microphone. Oh.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Chit-Chat and cheers, I suppose, is better.
Chit-Chat and cheers.
What are you drinking?
This is a New Glarus beer. It's their, oh gosh, now the name of it is escaping me. It's their, like, red raspberry one. It's really good.
I'm drinking Shandong again. So I thought about being more creative, but, you know, why test something that's tried and true?
You're consistent. That's all that matters.
It's true. Although I did have a glass. I tried Wine Wednesday for the kids' piano night. We go to the little Italian place and have the happy hour or whatever. They have like 3 or 4 cocktails on happy hour and then like 3 or 4 wines. And usually I get Cabernet, or in the summer when it was really hot, I would get Aperol Spritz. But they have, I don't remember what it's called, but it's like simple syrup, Prosecco, grenadine, and lime all mixed together. And I was like, that sounds a little bit more fall-esque with, you know, the lime and the grenadine, whatever. It was delicious. Tried it. So we'll see. But
nice.
Yeah.
I love a good cocktail.
I am not a huge cocktail drinker, but I'm trying to expand my horizons.
I love a good cocktail. That's like, I don't know. I always peruse the cocktail menu first. Every once in a while, I'll do like a glass of wine or beer at dinner. But if I'm going out, I feel like I can have beer and wine at home. Like I can, or open a bottle just as good as anybody. I would rather have someone actually physically make me a drink, I think, when I go out.
I just know I'm going to like it. If I get like a glass of Pinot or Cabernet, I'm going to like it. If
That's true.
Heard the beer, I'm going to like it. If I get a cocktail, I may not like it, and then I've wasted all that money.
It's always a little bit of a gamble. Although I feel like a lot of times, like, especially if you're going to a nicer place that has like a legit mixologist or like bartender, they take so much pride in their work that if you don't like it, a lot of times they'll be like, well, let me make you something you actually like.
I just don't like hard alcohol very much, so it's just hard for me.
Yeah.
Like, I think I like a French 75, and I can have one, and then I'm done. So I ordered a martini one time at a golf course, and it was like pure gin, and I was like, I will not be drinking that because I have to drive. So
I really like a lemon drop martini. Have you ever had one of those?
I'm sure I have. It's just not my go-to. I like the bubbles.
That's fair. Yeah, that's very, very fair. So, and I do have to call attention to, I have a Christmas shirt on.
Is that one that you made?
No, I didn't make this one.
Is that this year's Christmas pajamas?
No, this is several years ago, I think, but it's now officially Christmas season because it's post Halloween. Halloween's just the holiday that gets in the way on the way to Christmas. So.
Well, especially because Thanksgiving is so late this year. I feel like this weekend we're going to put I know you already have your tree up, but we're going to put our Christmas decorations up Saturday because otherwise, like I'm going to do like 16 hours worth of decorating for only 4 weeks. That's not worth it.
No, absolutely not. No, we put ours up last weekend. Kind of similar. We looked at the calendar, and this past weekend was like the only Saturday we had free until like mid-December. So I'm like, well, if it doesn't happen now, it's not going to happen until then, and that's not acceptable. So up it went. It's funny because I asked Chris, because he usually makes me wait until Thanksgiving. I asked him, I was like, "What's the situation? He's like, yeah, you can put the tree up." And I took that to mean I could just put the decorations up. So I put all the decorations up. And we have a very small space right now. We're living in a townhouse. And so it's very easy to make a townhouse extremely festive because it's a small space.
I love your house at Christmas.
Thanks. Yeah, it looks like a Hallmark movie because it's easy to make something look very festive when you don't have that much to decorate. But he came downstairs and he was like, I said tree. You could put the tree up. Christmas has exploded in here. And I'm like, well, it's already up. So
Merry Christmas. Confetti in your face. It's okay. John keeps saying, can we please wait till after Thanksgiving? And I was like, well, I work this weekend. That next weekend we have that thing at your office, and then we have this. No, we can't. We have to do it now.
Has to be now.
So
do the girls get really excited into putting stuff up, or do they kind of get distracted, like do one or two, and then they're like, okay, yeah, I don't want to do this anymore?
No, they get so excited. They want to haul everything out. And like we have this whole attic space, and I have so much Christmas that it's overwhelming. So like the last few years, I haven't even gotten all of it out, and the house still looks completely done. I mean, it's not like by any means like professionally done. It's very much like homemade and whatever. But
macaroni art.
Yeah. We have like a paper chain that goes down our stairwell that the girls helped me make when they were 3. But I have so many Christmas ornaments because I was obsessed with Christmas. I buy ornaments for everything. that I don't even open boxes of them because I'm just like, I can't. There's too much. So
you've got 2 trees too, don't you?
We have a tree in the family room. We've got a tree in the dining room, a tree in John's office, a tree in our bedroom, a tree in the playroom. And now the girls are asking for a tree. But like from the front of our house, we have all these windows. So like it looks like a triangle of trees now that we have one in John's office. And then with the fun tree is in the family room. That's the rainbow tree. All the rest of them are like white lights. But like the pretty tree is in the dining room with white lights and the gold and silver ornaments. And then the fun tree that's only decorated from as high as the kids can reach down is the one in the family room. And then they have like a little tiny tree that every year they'll like make paper ornaments for with like string and like pipe cleaners and hang on it in their little playroom. So, but it's so much work to get it all out. And it's so much more fun to get it out than it is to put it up. So since mom and dad come and help watch them every year after Christmas, I make mom help me put it all away. I'm like, no, January 1st, that's when it all goes away because Sita's here to help. We're packing it up and putting away while mom has help.
Oh, you're good. I get mine out so early and I keep it up way late. And to be fair, so our parents, Liz lives in Texas, I live up in Chicago, and we have joint custody of our parents. So they come to see me for Thanksgiving and then they go to see her for actual Christmas. So they come up to celebrate Christmas with us, kind of like early to mid-January. So I have to keep it up through then at least. So.
Yeah.
And then, if my outside lights were on until mid-February last year, that's,
no one knocked on your door and told him you to take them down. We have those jellyfish lights, so we can at least make the outside look like we can not turn the Christmas trees on and make the outside look like Valentine's Day. This is great.
Oh, there you go. Just take it off, turn it all red.
Yeah. That was when we like had a bonus and we're like, we're gonna do one fun thing for the house. And John was like, let's do jellyfish lights. And I was like, we're the backyard. And he was like, jellyfish lights.
What are jellyfish? Are those like permanent? Like they stay up all year?
Yeah, they fit under, they're not on the gutter, but they're like underneath like the whatever the edging on your roof is. And so then like we have them as security lighting most of the year. So like every third one is bright white. You can time it to come off and on. But like at Halloween, you can make it spooky. You can do like chasing lights. Cool. You can like do Dallas Cowboys, Oklahoma, whatever you want to do. It's really fun.
That's fun.
It really is. It's like one of those things where I was like, do I really want to spend the money on this? And he was like, yes, we do. And then it's actually been one of those things that's been the most fun that we've spent money on because the kids will even be like, Daddy, it's the summer solstice. We need to do green and yellow lights. And John will make it. I don't know. Like
your girls, you're such witchy little girls. They're
John is he talks to them all about like, oh, this is like the longest day of the year. This is the shortest day of the year. And so since Blair was homesick today, I came home and I had a answering emails working. I had a really important call at 2:30. Of course, in the middle of this call, she comes in behind me. It's asking me questions. And I'm like, I mute it because I'm talking during this part. I mute it. I turn around. I'm like, you have to leave. Take the dog with you. And everyone's like, well, at least she muted while she's yelling at her kid. But then afterwards, she's like, Mom, you promised you'd play with me after that meeting. So I played Junior Monopoly with her. She legit beat me. It was unlucky. Impressive. I think she loaded the dice because like for 5 or 6 turns in a row, we got the same number. So every time she bought something, I would land on it. Then we played checkers. That girl cheats. She cheats.
Hey, is it cheating or is it strategy?
No, I would turn to answer an email out the corner of my eye. I'd see her move things. And then she'd be like, I got your checker. And I was like, where was that before?
Sneak. Little sneaky.
Cheater.
Who did she pick that up from? You or John?
I am never cheat. I am appalled that you would think that.
I don't think you cheated a lot at stuff growing up. I don't really remember.
I can't lie. I like my face is like, oh no, I wouldn't do that.
So do you think that she picked that up from John?
I think that was someone. Or maybe at school. I don't know. Maybe she's got some sketchy friends at school. We probably need to investigate that. But
she's just running like an underground betting ring.
Probably. She's probably playing blackjack at recess. Who knows? But anyway, should we get to a topic?
No, they're not here for that. They're here for our
They're here for the chit-chat.
That's right. We've had the cheers. This is the chit-chat portion of the evening.
I think most of our listeners who are our friends actually are.
It's fine. All right. So, do you want to tell them what the message, what the topic is today?
So I will say that I feel unprepared for today's conversation. I found it very challenging to research, but also interesting. But we are going to talk today about subliminal messaging.
Yeah. So we're, we're going to hit our stride in terms of topics. It's going to be probably a little hit or miss here or there as we're finding our groove. But yeah, I had it on, we have like a running list of things we thought might be interesting to talk about. And I had it on there. And then I don't remember what I was listening to some other podcast. I think it was Girls Next Level. Do you know what that one? Have you heard of that one? Do you know what Girls Next Door is? The TV show?
Yeah.
From so the two of them, Holly and Bridget, started a podcast where they're basically going back and watching the episodes and then adding like commentary about like what it actually was like and behind the scenes.
Mm-hmm.
And one of them was talking about subliminal messaging. I was like, it's a sign from the universe. That night, that's actually when I texted you. I was like, hey, how about subliminal messaging? So that's how it got chosen. No rhyme or reason other than it came up serendipitously in my life. So if this isn't
subscribe.
That's right. We gotta play it under, like, I gotta be talking and then you gotta do it because that's how it works. So we're gonna kind of talk through, we'll go through like the actual like what it is and how it is, and then I think it'd just be interesting to just have a conversation about it. And you know what?
It's funny. The research, though, I was trying, like, I'm going to be serious. Brianna's done all this great research. I'm going to be serious this episode. And literally the first video I watched was about subliminal Disney messaging, and it was mostly phallic stuff. And I was just like, I don't think this is what she had in mind, but I'm going to watch this 15-minute video just to be sure.
Is it what we're going to talk about? No. Am I still going to watch it? Yes.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Because
everyone knows there was a penis on the cover of The Little Mermaid.
Disney's and penis? I mean, how can you see that and not watch it? You have to. Actually, one of the podcasts that I listened to about subliminal messaging, I'm going to have a trouble with that all night tonight, also talked a lot about Disney, like, hidden messages. And yeah, a lot of sex sells.
I found with the Disney stuff, though, it was hard to determine what's an Easter egg that's dirty versus what's actually subliminal messaging. And so that's why I didn't really think that movie actually applied. But then I also found it to be the most interesting one that I watched. So
yeah, I don't think a lot of those are like subliminal messaging. I think it's either one, people looking at like an ink splatter and they're seeing an image in it. Mm-hmm. So they're kind of pulling, or two, to your point, dirty artists and people who are making the movies seeing how much they can slip in and get away with because they think it's funny. Yeah. And it's an inside joke. So but yeah, I don't think all of that is true sublimation. And I did learn a lot that there's a difference between, and I'm looking for the term in my phone here, subliminal messaging versus supraliminal messaging. So
isn't it determined by the amount of time that it's spent? No. Okay, I'm wrong. Please inform us all.
I'll inform you. But let's travel back to the beginning, shall we? Is there anything else you want to say at the top? As they say, at the top?
I did try reading a research article about it, and I'm a doctorate-educated nurse practitioner, and this research article was talking about things that I had to look up in the dictionary. So let's go there.
I was like, I'm going to find a like peer-reviewed study that talks about like the scientific of how this works, and I even less than you because I'm not in medical at all. I'm like, yeah, no, this is not going to work. All right, so subliminal messaging, a brief history. So most people agree that the history of subliminal messaging as we know it today started back in 1957. A man by the name of James Vicary.
Popcorn, Coke.
Vicary. I don't know. You're just going to have to give us a pass on pronouncing names because it's not my strong suit. We're going to go with Vicary. James Vicary.
Like the Vicar. It's fine.
Well, live vicariously through him.
Anyway, yeah, vicariously through him.
I think you're thinking of a vicar from your...
I don't know. We all hear things differently in our heads when we read them in our romance novels, okay?
I was going to say your dirty books. Do you ever have that, like, where you, like, you've read a word so many times and you go to, like, say it and it's just completely not the
I told you the story the first time when I joined sorority in college. We had to read, like, the bylaws and all, and, like, the history. And, I'm reading and I'm like, yada, 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 liaison. And they're like, do you mean, wait, no, what did I say? I said, oh, liaison. And they're like, do you mean liaison? And I was like, That's the one. It's French.
Pardon my French.
Anyway, carry on. Sorry.
Anyway, all right, 1957. Jimmy Boy, James Vicary, and Francis Thayer. So they're two homeboys, right? I think they're in marketing, but they decide that they're going to run a test in a movie theater over a 6-week period. So they want to test out if they can increase the sale of popcorn and Coke simply by sending messages to the audience without them knowing about it. So they're going to run this test. So for 6 weeks, they flashed during a screening of the movie called The Picnic or Picnic. They flashed the words "eat popcorn" and then the words "drink Coca-Cola" for 1/3000th of a second every 5 seconds for 45,000 people over that 6-week period. So they were kind of flashing this, and it's at a speed that is not registerable. Like, you can't register it with your human eye. It's so fast. I feel like I'm doing a lot of this movement. So as a result of that, they reported that they had a jump in popcorn and Coke sales. So popcorn jumped 57% and Coke sales jumped 18% respectively. So you would think good results. So a gentleman by the name of Vance Packard, so third guy, wrote a book after this called The Hidden Persuaders. So after Jimmy and Francis came out with their findings.
Okay, Francis isn't going to work with Jimmy. We need like Franny.
Jimmy and Franny. I love it. So Jimmy and Franny, they come out, they publish their findings. Whole world freaks out that they're able to advertise. What is happening with your camera over there? My whole
computer situation is falling apart.
For our audio listeners, I look up and Elise is just like floating in and out of screen because she's got a web camera sitting on top of her computer while we're recording this.
It's not well secured. Let's just say that.
Let's get some duct tape out there.
I need a more permanent duty station, but this is where Sloan does homework, so I have to move it every time we're done.
It's fine. Maybe as we continue to do this, our situation.
When we make our millions, I'll have a studio.
That's right.
And we'll get you a pink microphone.
Yes, a pink microphone. I'll still have my squishmallows in the back, though.
I think that's necessary for the success of our program. Anyway, sorry. Franny, Jimmy,
and Franny. Vance. Vance doesn't fit.
But Jimmy, Franny, and...
Is Vinny a nickname for Vance? I don't feel like it is.
I feel like Vance just needs to stand.
All right, Vance. Vance stands alone. Okay, so Jimmy and Franny come out their findings. They publish that. The whole world freaks out. A couple years later, this dude named Vance Packard wrote a book called The Hidden Persuaders. And in that, he is saying that marketers in corporate America are subliminally influencing you to buy things you don't need. And that caused people to lose their shit. So mass anger, paranoia abounds. So it got to the point where even like the CIA was starting to look into it and, trying to figure out if it was actually a threat to the American people. But 5 years goes on and mounting anger, anxiety about subliminal messaging. And then good old Jimmy comes out and good old Jimmy comes out and says, "Just kidding, guys. Study was fake. Made it all up. He was just trying to save his failing marketing business." But
that was nice of him to come clean, but a little too late, sir.
A little too late. And the fuse, you can't put it back in the box after it's out. The fuse had been lit, and the intrigue about if this actually works had started, and you can't stop it once it started. Once you pop, as they say. So multiple studies have been conducted since then. Some favorable, some not. It kind of seemed like they between like the 1960s when he came out and said, "Oh, I faked the study," and through like kind of the 90s, there was a lot of studies that were like it doesn't exist, but there were still a lot of cases of people saying that they were using it. And I have a couple list of different examples of that we can go through here in a little bit. But it definitely, there are sort of players that kind of come up time and time again that they use it or that they found subliminal messaging in their advertising. But then in 2002, a Princeton study did show that there was a 27% increase in thirst when subliminal messaging of the word thirsty and an image of Coca-Cola were shown to viewers. They were watching a Simpsons episode, and Simpsons, right? The control group didn't have any subliminal messaging, but then the group they were testing flashed those, and they did report an increase in people reporting that they were thirsty. And then that study was duplicated by a school out in the Netherlands.
Well, then we must trust it.
That's true. So it was verified by two sort of independent.
I just meant the Netherlands. We must trust them.
Oh, what do you know about the Netherlands that I don't know?
Just saying, I want to go there. They seem trustworthy, and we should all adopt their fashion sense in winter.
That is, I do love a good scarf. I love a cozy coat.
I have a girlfriend who calls her style grandma forward. I'm like, that is exactly what I want to be. Grandma forward style. That seems very Netherlands-esque.
What is grandma forward?
Like a bulky sweater with cute buttons, but then like leggings and really spicy boots. Grandma forward.
I love it. I'm gonna steal that here. So there's been lots of studies, and the most recent ones too, that have shown that when someone is being subjected to subliminal messaging, it can actually even trigger the emotional and memory centers of the brain. So they have the electrodes and they're figuring out different parts of the brain are triggered by different stimuli, and that triggered it. So I'll pause there. Anything in your research that I've missed on the history? And then I have like the different types of subliminal messaging, and then some information on like different types from the if it's actually subliminal or if it's supraliminal, and then some examples too.
Not really. I read one study that it was mostly focused on animals and like centers in the brain and memory, which was really interesting with subliminal messaging. But
what was it saying?
It was basically saying that they showed an image to animals subliminally, and over time, seeing that subliminally allowed them to identify it more quickly when they saw the actual, like the way they reacted when they saw the full image, not subliminally, was quicker than animals that hadn't seen it subliminally.
But really? So they were like picking up on it and recognizing it.
But then they rotated the image and showed it to them subliminally, but then when they were, it was just, this is one of those articles I was like, this is way too scientific for my brain to actually comprehend. But there was something about rotating the image that changed the way, when it was shown subliminally, the way that if you saw it subliminally, not in the correct distribution, your brain interpreted it, actually affected your ability to recognize it. And I don't remember if it was faster or slower, but it had something to do with like it changed the way your brain processes the way it pictured things that it had seen subliminally before. And I don't like, initially I remember it was like identification, it was faster, and after that point I don't remember if it was, I'd have to reread the article, but
interesting.
Like reading it.
Well, because too, and I might be totally talking out of my ass on this, but I feel like I remember
on this, by the way. I could have totally misread this article.
When you see something, your eye actually brings the image in upside down, and your brain just knows to reverse it.
Uh-huh.
So I wonder if that has anything to do with it. So like if you subliminally are seeing it upside down, that maybe your brain like registers it differently.
Right. I was reading the article and I didn't know if it completely applied to this episode, but I was like, that's really interesting. But I did think the part where they said where they flashed it subliminally in front of different animals and they were able to like recognize it quicker initially, I thought that was really interesting. But it makes really sense, right? Like you see flashes of something sense. And then your brain over time, if you've seen that a whole bunch, is like, I recognize that. I know what that is.
Yeah, no, 100% that makes sense.
Which I think training time out, which I think is why people were so scared of it, because that is the basis for why people thought that subliminal messaging could be brainwashing, right? Like I see this and I associate, like I subliminally message this and I show you something scary. Subliminally message scary. So then when you actually see the image, you're scared.
Yep. Yeah. So that's a great point to bring up, because a lot of the research I was doing as well kind of reinforced the fact that subliminal messaging works, but not to the extent that I think a lot of people are afraid it's going to work.
Mm-hmm.
it only works if you were already predispositioned to doing that activity anyway, and subliminal messaging can tip you over to actually doing it, or can influence what of that selection. So if you're already going to have something to drink, it can influence of, oh, I'm going to try something new, and I'm going to have like a Lipton iced tea instead of my normal Pepsi or whatever it is. Like, it's good at doing that, but it can't brainwash you or control you.
I've heard it's likely to, if you believe it already subconsciously, it's going to help you like buy more into it. So like you said, like if you believe like, oh, I'm going to have a drink tonight, it's going to help you decide which one. Like subliminal messaging may help you pick which one. But if you're like, oh, I'm not drinking at all, you're not going to, like, that's not going to affect you. It's going to be like, I'm not drinking. Why would I want like a Long Island?
Yeah, exactly. So the whole premise of like, oh, you can be brainwashed, or oh, you can be like sleeper cell spy and not be aware of it, and then like a trigger hits and like all of a sudden you flip your personality, and all of a sudden you remember and you're this super spy. At least to what is available publicly. I don't know what the government's doing if it's different than this, but that's not really how subliminal messaging
Those people just
works.
Be crazy.
They just be crazy. How it works,
or how really committed, one of the two, and then they already believed it.
Yeah,
so.
Right? And it's interesting too because there have been lawsuits around subliminal messaging as well. Did you ever hear the band Judas Priest? Do you know who they are?
Mm-mm.
So there's a rock band, but there was a claim that they incorporated subliminal messaging into some of their records and were encouraging people to commit suicide. And so these two kids, tried to kill themselves. One of them succeeded and one of them didn't. But they sued the band because they were saying that they used this subliminal messaging and that's why they did it. The band wasn't found guilty and the case was dismissed, but it has gone to court of people trying to.
I read things too that like corporations like, Fox, NBC or NBC, CNN, they have to be careful too, because if they're found doing that stuff, it's a huge liability.
Well, yeah, because the FCC or the SEC, I don't remember the regulatory body, but they came out and fully banned subliminal messaging. Like, I think it was during the 70s, like a long, long time ago. They came out and were like, no, like it's absolutely banned. You're not allowed to do it, but people still continue to do it. And they do it in different ways too, which are some of the examples that I have. But
I'm sorry, I can't talk to you over the sound of my Stanley Cup.
So that is actually an example of supraliminal versus subliminal. So let me kind of walk you through that, and then we can kind of circle back to the different types of actual subliminal messages. So you might be asking yourself, what the heck is supraliminal messaging? Supraliminal. Yeah, I think that's how you pronounce it. So with subliminal, you are not aware of the stimuli. It's flashed so fast on the screen, or it's hidden underneath other sounds in a track that you aren't physically aware of the stimuli, but it influences you to do something. So either you recognize it at some level of your brain and interpret that. So that's subliminal. Supraliminal is you're aware of the stimuli, but you do not know how strong of an impact it's going to have on you. For example, in 1999, a British research team did an experiment where they're in a supermarket and they played alternating music. One day they would play French music, and then the next day they would play German music. And then they looked at how what music was played in the supermarket correlated with the amount of either French or German wine that was sold that day. And they found that on German days, German wine outsold French wine, and on French music days, the French wine outsold German wine. So, right, the conclusion they made is that people were hearing the French or German music, and then that was influencing what they bought. Another example of this would be, say you are walking through the mall, and you're a couple of doors away from the food court, and all of a sudden you smell the Cinnabon scent. Well, they pipe that out into the mall atrium purposefully to do that. So you smell it, you're aware of the smell, but then all of a sudden I have to have a Cinnabon, and you go and get a Cinnabon. So that's not
Cinnabon or Cinnabon.
I think it's Cinnabon, actually.
You're very French when you say this. Are they playing Cinnabon French music while they piped this story?
I must have my Cinnabon, you silly American.
Anyway, carry on. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
So yeah, no, you're fine. Please do. I wish you would more. I feel like
well, in that case, I'm just like, I'm like, really? That's what happened?
Tell me more.
Clearly your research was far more in depth than mine. Half a research article and 5 YouTube videos.
Well, here's what happens when you have hyperfixations is you go down rabbit holes and become the expert on things that serve you no purpose.
We have different types of ADD. It's fine. It's fine.
It's fine. So that's the difference between those two.
Hi,
you look lovely.
Thank you.
You look lovely. You look so like professional today.
We wear pink on Wednesdays.
We wear pink on Wednesdays.
I did get a lot of compliments today. I'm like, I wore shoes that weren't flats. I wore like these like booties, and I regretted it about 30 minutes into my morning.
Well, you walk a lot, right? You're like on the floor.
I was like, what was I thinking?
Yeah, I sit at a desk all day, and some days I can't be bothered to get out of my flat.
So I know this is completely off tangent, but so we had like there's our like director of facilities is responsible for training all of us on that type of stuff. And he mentioned today, he's like, oh yeah, we're gonna have active shooter training next week. And Navy done that tons of times every year. And so but after he leaves, they open the door and I hear this like pop. And I was like, Jesus Christ, we're under attack. Everybody looked at me and I was like, my heart rate was like at 50, like I could feel the adrenaline in my fingers. I was like, oh, okay. And then I hear it again and again and again. And then the cart rolls by with a bunch of pies on it. Not an active shooter, just pies. Bumpy floors and a poorly constructed cart, noted. So
it's all right.
But I was ready.
I got this.
My girlfriend Laura, she was like, I saw you, girl. You were ready to like throw that door shut and shove the table against it. I was like, run, hide, fight, girl. That's your mantra.
I am a true millennial in that I am just filled with anxiety about every single thing. But anytime I go to a new place, the first thing I'm thinking of is like, okay, where are my exits? What's my exit strategy? What if someone comes in here? What do I do? Like I literally in my mind go through a scenario of like how I would react if someone came in here aggressive. And like,
do you know how to exit your car with your children if you drive into a lake? Because I think that through in my head before bed sometimes.
You roll the window down a little bit so that it equalizes the pressure, and then you have to get like a little like thing to get the seatbelts out, and then you knock the window out.
And which kid's a better swimmer? Think about that too, because you got to get the kid that's the computer situation. Get the kid that's a worse swimmer out first, because you're gonna have to help them more. I'm just sorry. This is getting really dark really fast. Let's go back to subliminal messaging.
We're going to have to get you a
therapist
tripod. Yes. Number 1, therapist.
Different story.
Number 2, tripod. That's the title of the episode. Number 1, therapist. Number 2, tripod. In that order. Did you have anything you wanted to add to that?
I just would say that most of my research that I did, which granted sounds very much less primary resourced than yours, was that it's really not a thing as far as influencing what you do unless you already were predisposed. Like you already wanted something, like the Coke thing. You wanted something to drink anyway. You saw that, maybe you want a Coke now instead of a Sprite, that sort of thing. But that long term, it can have an effect, because if you're continually exposed to the same subliminal messages, it can over time be like, oh, Coke's the only thing I drink, instead of, oh, I drink any sort of soda. Or like, for maybe that's why I love champagne. Maybe I was subliminally exposed to champagne over time and I don't like anything else. I don't know.
Different kinds of examples that I thought were interesting. So I had, obviously we talked about the initial study, the eat more popcorn, eat more Coke. So flashing things on the screen is kind of like the primary visual stimuli that people have. But I do think it's interesting too. There are other instances where like little messages or little suggestive things are kind of like tucked into print advertising that I thought was really interesting. So for example, there is a KFC ad that is advertising their like 99-cent menu, something on their 99-cent menu. And if you look closely at it, there's actually a dollar bill that's like in the lettuce. It's really, really small, and you kind of have to have it pointed out. And I don't know if I'll like, for the video one, if I'll put the image here. I know I said that last time and then I didn't do it. for the Enneagram. I said I was going to superimpose.
If you want those things to happen, you need to subscribe so we get sponsored.
Yeah, exactly. But I can post the links to things. So it's like a print image of like I think it's like a sandwich or something like that. But in the lettuce, there's like a little dollar bill. So they're wanting you to associate this image with $1 because it's what it is. And so kind of thinking back like, oh, I have $1 to eat, I'm going to go with this chicken sandwich.
But then that begs the question, is that subliminal or just like good marketing?
I think it's subliminal to an extent because you don't, if you just looked at the image and didn't know it was there, you wouldn't realize it was there. But once you see it, you can't unsee it. So I think it's definitely intentional. There are other instances where, like, one of the podcasts I was listening to that I'll include, obviously we include all the resources in the show notes. They were referencing a couple of like print ads where they were saying like, oh, or subliminal, because they're kind of sexualized. And that definitely, I think, is more intentional. So, like, for example, there was another, I think it was a Burger King ad they were talking about where it was for, I can't remember. It was like this, like, sandwich. And it was called, like, the, like, 7-incher or something like that. And then the advertisement ad, it was a woman who was, like, mouth open agape. And the sandwich was, like, coming at her. And there was a lot of, like, innuendos, like, sexual innuendos about, oh, a meaty 7-incher. Yeah, exactly. I'm like, okay, that's a little bit heavy-handed, one, and two, like, that's not subliminal, that's just like overtly,
that's just gross,
sexualizing a sandwich, which is, you're weird for that.
I mean, if that's your thing, we still want you to subscribe. We totally appreciate you. However, you need a therapist too.
I mean, who are we to yuck someone else's yum? But it's a little odd.
Just edit
but yeah,
that part
it's interesting because like there's definitely a theme to the subliminal messaging and marketing, and it's sex.
Yeah.
Like,
well, it's like all the Disney stuff is all like sex. Like,
yeah, if we can make something sexy or like equate it to sexual in some way, then like that's what we're gonna do, and it sells because people see that and they think of sex or sexual things and they automatically want it. So a lot of the Coca-Cola actually randomly like is the one that comes up the most with the most examples. So there's a couple of instances of this. So like one of them, and you can probably picture it in your head. Think back to like the vending machines from like the 90s and early 2000s. And there's a can of Coca-Cola on it. And it's like covered kind of like ice around the bottom. There's like kind of ice on top and like dripping down.
Mm-hmm.
Can you like visualize that?
Mm-hmm.
Well, the ice on the top, if you look at it, actually looks like a naked woman who's like laying on her side with her hair draping over the side of
I'm going to have to Google this while we talk.
I'll if you can't find it, I'll just Google like Coca-Cola subliminal messaging and it'll come up. And there's another one too where it's like sorry, my phone keeps falling over. I think you can hear that. There's a I think it's like a glass bottle advertisement, and there's a bunch of cubed ice, and in one of the cubes of ice and they claim it was completely unintentional and it just looks like this, but it absolutely looks like someone who's getting ready to give a little bit of fellatio, if you know what I mean.
I'm looking at the picture of the vending machine and like
I'm gonna have to put an explicit warning on this.
I kind of see it, but at the same time, like if you hadn't said it, that's not what I would see. That's why it's subliminal.
That's why it's subliminal, because you don't register it when you're looking at it, but they're claiming subconsciously your brain interprets that as,
if I'm drinking Coke, I'm sexy.
Exactly. If I'm drinking Coke, which is why I exclusively drink Coke.
That's all I drank when I was in Thailand because I was trying to be a vegetarian and not Thailand. I'm sorry. Australia, because I was trying to be a vegetarian and I couldn't find anything. So I literally got most of my calories from Coke.
Coke tie in with vegetarianism?
When you can't find a vegetarian dish and you're refusing to eat meat, you will drink Coke for calories. I looked great when I came back. I had a caffeine addiction, but you know.
When you do tend to lose weight, I feel like when you go abroad. When you came back from your tour of Afghanistan, you were scary thin.
Well, that's because they only give you 1 MRE a day, and that's most of it you don't want to eat because it'll probably give you cancer.
Yeah. Yes. For those of us who don't know, Elise is also a veteran. Which, happy Veterans Day. Thank you for your service.
Thank you. John would tell you that I'm not technically a veteran because I'm still serving, but he still
you're active duty then.
I'm not active duty. I'm a reservist, but he gave me a kiss and still, gave me dinner. So he made dinner. So we'll take it.
He gave you a kiss.
He's the actual veteran, which is funny.
He's a veteran too.
You made me dinner and you're the veteran and I'm not. This is great.
Yes.
Probably could have gone somewhere and gotten it for free, but
thank you for your service.
My pleasure.
Anyway, so that was Sight. So the main two are flashing images so fast you can't see it, which I also, every time I think about that, I think about Fight Club. Did you ever see that movie?
Yes.
Terrifies me. The picture of the penis
are we
at
all
the end?
crazy? Is that why I wake up in the middle of the night hearing phantom cries? Am I crazy?
I still do hear those every once in a while. And it's wild too, because it's like almost like a folie à deux where Chris and I would both hear phantom cries. We would see like, do you hear that, right? And we're looking at them like they are full asleep and we both hear it. I
literally 2 nights ago, dead asleep. It took me a long time to fall asleep. I was dead asleep and I like sat up because I swear. I mean, maybe they do. And like by the time you check the monitor, they're out. But I also will like, I'll be like, do you hear that? And I'll hear music and I'm like, am I schizophrenic? Am I crazy? But like, I think because the way that solid things conduct sound is different than air, I can hear the frequencies on the monitor that are like other frequencies that I can't hear if I sit up, but if I'm laying down, I can hear the underneath frequencies. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, 100%.
And so but like I sleep. So I used to be a really hard sleeper, but since I've had children, I just don't sleep that way anymore. And so those, like, I'll hear music underneath the kid's monitor that'll wake me up, and I'll be like, well, I can't sleep because all I can do is hear it, and I can't sleep sitting up where I can't hear it. So,
is it like your neighbor's music you're hearing?
There's been a few times that I've heard, like, because one of my neighbors, he works crazy hours and like blast movies in their media room, and I'll like wake up to the movies and I'm like, oh, I know that you're watching
you're watching E.T. tonight.
Yep, Citizen Kane. I've seen that one. Or Sound of Music tonight. That's great. But
why is Citizen Kane the one you brought up? Citizen Kane in our last episode too.
Well, I brought it up last episode because that was the example they gave, but I've actually woken up to my neighbors watching it. So, and they're lovely people. If I would text them at 2:00 in the morning and be like, I can hear your movie, they would turn it off, but I'm not that person. So, and our houses aren't that close, but I think they have like a media room and they just play it loud, and they don't, it's not as well insulated as they think it is.
That's fair.
But I will wake up to those like underlying frequencies on the monitor, and hear like country music. Like, I think a lot of it is like people play radio, like still play FM, AM radio, and it'll come through too on the monitor frequency, because I don't have like a super high tech monitor that's only on the Wi-Fi. It's like a literal old school monitor. And I'm like, well, I have to listen to Garth the whole time I'm trying to sleep.
Garth. Does it ever freak you out to look at the monitors? Like
their eyes.
When I'm or like sometimes I'm like watching them and my intrusive thoughts just start thinking about like, what if all of a sudden you see someone like walk into the room, or like you see someone's like hand go through and there's someone in there? Like, I don't know. I just start thinking, like, freak myself out.
Have you ever seen a flick of dust?
Yes.
Like fly. I'm like, what is that? What's in my baby's room?
Yeah. Yeah. It's super. I've seen a lot of videos too of like it'll be a video of the monitor, the baby sleeping, all of a sudden like this big spider like drops down in the screen. Like, so visual, that's one most people know about. Sound.
You know, if you don't like this episode, it's fine. The next one will be better.
You know, we say that, but I don't think it will be. I think this is our MO, is just we have a topic, we kind of talk about it, but we also go off on these tangents.
Friends, thank you for listening and watching. And our 8 subscribers, we will continue.
Which we had someone in Nigeria listen. It's actually really cool. The like app that I have to like track our stats.
If we have anyone from Alabama, that's my CFO, Chris. He wore pink today again.
Fun.
And I was like, Chris, you wore pink. He was like, I have to.
That's famous. Yeah, I'm such a nerdy data girl. I like check the stats constantly. But yeah, we have people from California, obviously Illinois and Texas, and then we've had people a couple other places, Indiana.
That's fun.
Yeah, and then we had one random in Nigeria, which I was like, that's so cool. We're gonna have it international. And then I was like, you know what? That's probably someone who's trying to steal our identity. So they're listening to our podcast to pick up like, oh, they have a dog named this, and they've got, 2 children named this and that.
We have identity protection.
That's right. My passwords are, you're never going to guess them. So keep trying, bucko. Or if you are legit,
just don't keep trying, please.
Yeah, actually don't keep trying.
We're good people. We have no money. We have nothing to steal.
Or if you're an actual listener, thanks, and tell your friends. So we went over visual. Sound. So sound is not one that I think most people, when they think about subliminal messaging, they do think about the visual of it. The sound is kind of like the secondary. So examples of that are like, putting tracks underneath tracks. So you're listening to music, but there's actual messages underneath it, like they were accusing Judas Priest of doing. But what I thought was,
sorry, were they able to be successful after that lawsuit, or that's it?
No, I think they did fine. They went on to have additional
albums
after that. Sorry. Don't quote me on that. I only know about Judas Priest from the research I'm doing. I could not tell you a single song up there, so I'm not trying to be a poser that I know about this band. I don't. So, but I want to say that they continue to make music. I don't know for sure. So one thing I did find was interesting though is the movie The Exorcist. They used subliminal messaging a lot in that movie.
Have you seen it?
Yes. Not that I hate horror movies. So
I don't do that. Time. No, ma'am.
I don't like scary movies at all, and I really don't like scary movies that have to do with like demons. It really freaks me out. But I have seen that one. A long time ago. Excuse me. What was I saying? Oh, so they use subliminal messaging in that movie. There's a couple instances where they flash like a scary image on the screen really quickly to kind of like build suspense. And then in a lot of the movie track, they actually use the sound of bees, like buzzing bees, underneath the music. That, and then I think they use the sound of lions roaring as well. I think, don't quote me on that.
I mean, how many of us have felt an insect go close to your ear and you're just like, oh my gosh. I mean, I would never want a bee to sting my eardrum. And bees are my spirit animal, but like, I don't want you near my ears. No, sir.
Well, yeah. So they put it underneath the music. You hear the music, but there's a undertone of the bees that you don't quite register, but it's meant to elicit this fear of like this dread and this like unease because of those sounds, which I thought was really interesting.
Yeah.
Who knows if it actually worked? I mean, that movie is scary, so
it'd be interesting to have like a study group of first-time people who've never seen the movie to watch it with the undertone, or even just listen to the soundtrack and like register their heart rates and like their adrenaline levels with the bees and without.
Yeah, I think that would be interesting too. And then like some examples of subliminal messaging. One of the research I was doing referenced pop cans and how like when you crack them open, how loud they are.
I love
that's
sound.
That's done intentionally, like the pressurization of that. Yeah, to like, so you hear it and you're like, oh, I want to pop. That sounds good. And then smell, we kind of talked about a little bit as well, the subliminal messaging in terms of like purposely piping out smells. And then I thought it was interesting too, and I never thought about it this way, but you know how sometimes you'll be driving and there'll be like a McDonald's and then like 2 minutes down the road there's another McDonald's.
Mm-hmm.
This one podcast I was listening to claimed that that's done purposely because the first McDonald's will pipe the smell out, that you'll smell it, and then you'll drive down the road 2 miles, see another McDonald's, and pull over to that one. Because
I wonder if they're franchised by the same people.
Maybe, right? So it's smart if you think about it, because you're triggered by the first one, and then you're thinking about it for a minute or two, and then you see another, you're like, yeah, I am going to pull over. That smelled really good. I'm going to grab some. So I just thought it was interesting. So it's like, how much is that subliminal? How much is that good marketing? I think it's kind of a fine line.
The other side of me is like being in like the management side where like you have to have the numbers and all the retail stuff. Like that poor first McDonald's, you may be helping that guy down the road, but like, what are you doing to get your own numbers up? Like we need to have weekly meetings to determine what you're doing. You need to pipe that smell stronger, but you need to make it pipe 10 miles up the road so they come to you.
Corporate America.
Ugh. Yeah, I love parts of it, and other parts of it, I'm like, who have I become?
A bad boss lady, that's who.
Yeah.
So the last thing I wanted to cover, just looking at my notes here to make sure I talked about everything. Yeah, so during the 90s, there was this trend where they tried to take subliminal messaging and layer it into like how you could use it positively, use it for self-help, self-improvement. And so a huge line of like products came out of like, oh, listen to this while you sleep, you'll absorb it while you sleep, to everything from diet to helping you quit like bad habits.
What's the movie we watched that had like the mom that wrecked when she was listening to, it was supposed to be hypnosis, but the same type of thing. And like there's like a guy, there's like a teenage guy who saw a picture of a girl and he thought she was really cute, and then he met her and she wasn't. It'll come to me, but it was like, it wasn't Gremlins. It was a bunch of like kids in Utah or like Nevada, and they were at a house and they had bikes. Anyway, take this off.
What are you talking about?
No, it'll come to me, but it has to do with subliminal messaging. Carry on. It's going to come to me. Go ahead.
I'm really intrigued to know what this show is. It's not Super 8, is it?
No, I don't think so.
I don't know what movie you're referencing.
Anyway, carry on. I'm going to figure it out while you're talking.
So just in the 1990s, that kind of actually ties into what you're talking about.
My nonsense, it carries into that?
No, it does, because I didn't go too much into the hypnosis side of it, but it is really interesting, like the line between like hypnosis and then subliminal messaging, because I feel like they do kind of overlap. And I think that would be interesting to continue to like look into hypnosis more and how that actually works, because not only is there like there's the, you know, stuff you see in the movies, but then there's the trick, like the party tricks that like the illusionists and hypnosis people do at like, you know, school functions where they would hypnotize people to like do the chicken dance. Does that actually work? Who knows? But then there's the like was it ERM? Is that what it's called? Like it's like a type of like therapy. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Say it again. I'm sorry. I'm trying to find my.
You're not even listening to me, are you? You are not even listening.
I'm not crazy. I've heard this movie. Anyway, go ahead.
I literally saw look at your face. You looked up. You go, huh? No, I was talking about hypnosis. There is a therapy technique, and it has to do with like your eyes are going back and forth. It's like ERM or something like that, like eye rapid movement or something like that. But
REM is a type of sleep.
No, it's not REM. It's like ERM or something like that. But it has to do with like you focus your eyes going back and forth like for a set amount of time, and it helps you kind of like bypass the like cognitive barrier that you have to kind of get deeper into your subconscious. It's a form of like therapy.
Mm-hmm.
And it's, now I can't remember what it is, but I just think it's interesting, like the ties between subliminal messaging, hypnosis, and like where one leaves off and the other one begins. I mean, they're very kind of distinct, but I think they're just definitely related. And I think it goes back to what you're talking about.
I think it's to me, even being in healthcare and how much we've learned about the brain and how a bit of even nerves, like we have stroke victims come into my hospital who can't move a hand. And 2 weeks later, when they leave, they can't even lift that arm when they come in, and they can like move their fingers and lift the arm and move their legs. Like our nerves are completely able to rehabilitate, and those are nerves. It's not even your brain. And so like there's the amount we don't know about what the human brain is cognitively doing in the background, to me, is unfathomable. And so all of the subconscious stuff that like we shove back there to be able to function as, you know, human beings in the real world, like goodness knows what, like if you tried to, I don't even want to, but like if you tried to access that stuff, oh my goodness, like every memory is literally in a file somewhere. And if we had a way to access it and dig that much deeper, we could get it. So on that level, subliminal messaging would be really effective if we chose to, like, you know, hundreds of thousands of years from now, to be a society that, like, you know, to take it back to our very first episode, like in our Pixar Eve,
Wally?
Thank you. Wally episode. Like if our brains were that much evolved that like we could tell it to do things, like it would be really amazing to see what all is stored in there. But we're just not at a level as humans where we can access those things. Like we're able to file things away in a way that subconsciously we can't recall.
Yeah. I have a really, really bad memory too. Like, I know a lot of people have very clear, vivid memories of like early preschool or like early like school and can like tell you who their first and second grade teacher was and this and that. I don't have those memories. I have very vague flashes of very specific things from our early to like mid childhood, but I have a really bad long-term memory. I've actually I edit that. I have a really bad memory. I have really bad short-term memory and long-term memory.
I am the same way. And we talked about this at Kelly's wedding. Do you remember? We were like walking back. Well, I remember this part.
I don't actually.
We were walking back about something. She had said something that we had done, and I was like, I don't remember that. And you're like, I don't either. And I was just like, do we want to unpack why we don't remember a lot of our youth? And you were like, no, not here.
Let's just leave that.
And I think we've both become, I mean, I'm sure if we sat down and we started talking, we would come up with those things. But I think that you and I are both just so busy and high functioning, have to be so high function. Not that everyone else doesn't, but like, okay, I'm not saying this well. I'm just saying
low key shaded everyone else.
No, I'm just saying that like, I am the same way. You and I both like if people tell us stories about us being young, and I think those are my memories of us being told stories. I don't actually remember those things. Where my kids will tell me things like, "Well, Mom, do you remember you when I was 3, you did this," and I'm like, "We haven't talked about that. Like, how do you remember that? Like, what?" The other day, I walked in there and they have their initials written on their toothbrushes, and I'm like, who did this? And they're like, Mom, we did this the other day. Don't you remember? And I'm like,
sure don't.
Was I on a work call while I did that? Like, real sorry, kids. But, and that's not good, but like, I'm the same way. We are the same. Like, we had a great childhood. All the bad stuff I don't remember either.
Yeah, it was great. I have no issues in my childhood. But it's weird. It's like, I'll remember like very specific, random, not important at all.
Yeah.
Like I remember playing with the Barbie McDonald's drive-through toy.
That is the best birthday gift I've had in my entire life. Mm-hmm. Welcome to McDonald's. May I take your order?
Your order?
You push the button and is that it? Yeah. Erica and Melissa got that for me for my, I don't even know what birthday, but that was the best birthday gift ever.
It was. And I stole it from you all the time.
I don't care. I love sharing. I love that that's your memory. That's a core memory for me. And I love that for you too.
I think that's why I was hiding in Mom and Dad's room, because I had stolen it and was playing with it. It was like during a family function. Like there were people at the house.
Yeah.
I was hiding in Mom and Dad's room playing with this Barbie toy.
I remember that was the house at Moss Creek too. And I remember that's when Mom gave me the talk about where babies came from. And I don't remember. I think I must have asked in front of a group of people because I remember her taking me back to her bedroom to talk to me about it by myself. And I remember the talk and I was just like, that's gross. I don't want to hear about that.
I don't think
I'm moving on.
I don't think we ever had like the talk. And Mom might listen to this and be like, yes, we did. But I think I just learned it from school. I think it was again a don't ask, don't tell situation.
Yeah.
Just assume that you get the information from school.
Yeah. I remember a lot. I have a lot of core childhood memories in their bedroom at Moss Creek. Like they had that. Do you remember the TV on the stand that during IU basketball games, Mom would let Dad wheel it into the dining room because we always had dinner at the table, and she would let Dad watch IU basketball during March Madness in the dining room, and that was it. It was the only time the TV was allowed during dinner.
Funny.
I don't know. I agree with you. I don't have a ton of like, and I'm sure if I sat and thought about it, or if I looked at pictures, I would remember those things, but I don't sit here and actively like recall memories of childhood other than like being happy and comfortable. Yeah. Like I never felt sad or unwelcome or anything like that. So Mom and Dad, you did a good job. Thanks.
You did.
You ruined us as parents.
Look how well adjusted we turned out.
Now you have your trouble with your grandkids. It's on you.
That's on you. That's right. Well, that's all I had on subliminal messaging. I think the big takeaway for me is it's more fiction than fact in terms of Hollywood likes to play it up. It's kind of a fun Where's Waldo Easter egg with advertising, but its actual uses are a little bit limited.
The takeaway for me is I'm glad I get my popcorn and pop before the movie starts. So
That's right. You can't influence me. I've already done it. Well, thanks so much for joining us today, guys. So before you head out, make sure you catch us on social media because we are Insta-fluences now. So we are on Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube. So for anyone who would rather watch the visual of this, you can watch this recording on our YouTube channel. So our Instagram is ChitChatCheersPodcast, all one word, obviously. Our TikTok is ChitChatCheers. Our YouTube is ChitChatCheersPodcast. All one word, obviously. So yeah, so go and follow us on social media and give us a rate, review, subscribe, give us a thumbs up. We would really appreciate it. It's really exciting for me to see when someone watches the podcast or gives us a review or a thumbs up. So just make my day, why don't you? And
mine.
do those things for us. And yours, yes, because I constantly barrage her with,
she's like,
look,
we have another viewer.
Listen.
And I'm like, oh, I should check that.
And she's like, that was me.
I did text you that. I was like, look, we have another subscriber. And it was me, but it's fine.
It's me. I'm the problem.
We would also love any suggestions you have for things we could research or topics you would like to hear. We're open to anything.
Yeah, leave a comment. Let us know what you would think would be interesting for us to talk about. I love going down a rabbit hole, learning something new. So just let us know what would be interesting for us to discuss. But we're going to have our next podcast here in 2 weeks. Like I said before, we are going to be doing this every other week because that is what works best for our schedule. So we will catch you guys in a couple weeks. But until then, thanks, and we'll see you later.
Bye.
Bye.